We're going to take a question from Nick.
Is the monarchy not a threat to democracy, given that the monarch inherits all the legal powers of government? And don't you think it undermines the idea of rule by the people, that all of our laws are drawn from this kind of elected German person, this unelected German person?
Big taboo calling them German. Obviously, I can't comment because the German issue is everybody's hands. Does it undermine democracy? Well, no, I don't think it does. And I think I made this argument in my speech that sure, if the people were at the gates calling for Her Majesty's head to be removed and she still stayed there, I think it could, then that would clearly be undemocratic. I think a great quote to use here is the Duke of Edinburgh, who said that I know Ray will say, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? And perhaps that's true. But he says that
only if he was insulting someone.
He says the monarchy can only exist as long as the people want it there, and that's quite clearly true, particularly in the 21st century. I mean, clearly, if a political party is elected to Parliament, where these things are discussed, we're a parliamentary democracy, and if a political party was elected to a stonking majority with republicanism in its manifesto, then there would be no, I'd still be a monarchist, but there'd be no doubt that there would be a very strong case for abolishing it. There is no groundswell, no public support, other than the few 100 members of Republic, to get rid of this institution, and it is there by the consent of the people, and therefore it's not an affront to democracy.
Look, you put words into my mouth. I didn't mention that there was a huge groundswell of Republican support. That's what we're fighting for. What I did say that most people are apathetic. They're going into that middle ground. The support for the monarchy is about 25%, no more. It's about the same as what we've got. We're growing, you're decreasing. The reason that the BMS exists is because of us. They're frightened of it. And it's, we've got 30,000 supporters as of last year, and it's doubling every year. So, do your own maths.
Can we take another question? So we have it in
this is the Ray. Hypothetically, if you wanted president, how long would they be in? And would they be? I'm asking you, with your own thoughts about this.
5 to 7 years.
And would they have
the maximum of 2 terms?
Maximum
That's
2
my
terms.
personal opinion, but everybody's got their own view. That's what the Constitution and what people would decide.
But with them, would you not think really it's nearly an elective dictatorship, if you think about it?
Well, not if it's largely a ceremonial role. What we do want is I'm going to be too Anglican about this because I'm not religious at all, but I think what the Archbishop comes out with occasionally, he does actually question our politicians, something that the Queen never does. He was absolutely silent on something like the expenses scandal. She should have come out and said, look, we the people want you to sort this out. We elect you and get it sorted. She said nothing. The Chief Rabbi also does the same thing. He puts our government on the spot and they don't like it. Now, no wonder the government wants this wonderful institution to continue, because they're in the clear. There's no question there.
But again, another hypothetical theory that, say you've got the general election coming up. It's election day, so no one's prime minister, and just happens to be a certain country attacks our country. Who do they go to? They go to that president, who then really has got all that power.
Well, we're not advocating that any person will have his finger on a red button, and the Queen isn't either.
But hypothetically, written down on paper, she can basically, she can call the troops really when there isn't a prime minister.
Hypothetically, you could replicate that with whatever you place the Queen with, and the role. I would think that those decisions are made by a Ministry of Defence and government rather than by the Queen.
It's not really directed to me. All I would say is that electioneering politicians every 5 years costs a great deal of money. I'm not sure it's necessary for the role of head of state. If they're all these electioneering and politicians are of course necessary and vital in the governing of the country, but for a ceremonial head of state, I think it will only seek to cause divides in a position that doesn't need to be divisive.
So we take a question from the man up front, the next one actually. You can, no, Josh. No, Josh, guess it's a bit. Pardon? You had still asking a question, or did
This is Scott. Scott. A lot of royal events have been moved to public first quite a lot of money, and what would you have to say to the hypothesis that the royal family takes more out of this country's purse than it does bring in?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question? I couldn't hear it. Could you repeat it for me? What you said?
It was how do you respond to claims that the royal family takes out more from the public purse than they give in?
Oh, thank you, sorry.
And the cost of royal events and things like that. Okay, there's a couple of things. I mean, firstly, the royals get invited on most of their events. I mean, the Queen doesn't go up to a new daycare centre in Newcastle or something and say, right, I'm going to open this. I mean, they tend to get invited, and I imagine a lot of the costs associated with the monarchy would actually exist if we had a president as well. I mean, presumably if we had a president, we'd still want to stop him from getting shot. We'd want to protect his family. They'd still need to move around the country. That is, if we wanted them to carry on doing all the work that our royal family does. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that some royal events do cost a lot of money, but clearly people are turning up to them. And you know, if lots of people are there, then it is the state's duty to protect them, and to protect the people and protect the royal family or the politicians, whoever it is. So a lot of these costs that are touted would exist whether you had a president or a monarch. Anyway, regards to the take out more than they put in, financially that isn't true. The best study that's been done on this is by a company called Brand Finance, who are a London-based brand valuation firm, and they suggested that the benefit of the monarchy to British business was about 44 billion pounds. No, you've got it.
And they are phone as well, and you still keep mentioning it.
Well, it was a deeply rigorous study.
And full.
Well, in your
get to respond to then on the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you. Yeah, I mean, it's a very costly institution. This is why we differ. We come to a figure of 200 million, which is about 5 times the official figure. And if you look at the official figures, you'll see that things like security isn't included. Some of the major individual trips aren't included. One thing that's missing here, of course, is that you cannot pretend that replacing the monarchy and the whole royal family, 15 paid members of the royal family, working royals, and all the support. If Charles employs 146, he just had another 3 last year. Presumably another one to squeeze his toothpaste. You can't pretend that replacing 15 members of the royal family, all that expense, with one head of state and their immediate family is going to cost more. It just won't. The Brand report, I can't believe you mentioned this again. It's just mad. This report was by a private company last year. It was a bit of PR exercise around the Jubilee, and it can't really be taken seriously at all. Every element on here will actually not decrease in the event of the abolition of the monarchy. The Crown Estates, I've already mentioned, does not belong to the monarch. It hasn't done since 1726. It belongs to us. This is, in case you don't know, the Crown Estates owns, for example, our coastline 12 miles out, so all the mineral rights, all the shipping rights, and our seals and dolphins. They own large swathes of land around London. That money goes directly into the Treasury. If you go onto the Crown Estate website, they actually say on the front page, we are nothing to do with the monarchy. It's nothing to do with the monarchy. So there's one of the figures. Royal Collection. It's not their collection, it's our collection. Right? She holds it in trust on behalf of the nation. Now imagine how great it would be if we actually had access to our own art collection in Buckingham Palace as a public museum. The Duchy of Cornwall is listed as an income. It's not an income. It's taken away from an impoverished part of the country to fund Charles and his extravagant lifestyle and those of his sons. Now how much better if that money was actually reinvested in the local community. It's the Guardian retraction I think you mentioned as well. Was that on this one or the previous one? Sorry, I'm getting confused.
I did mention that.
Yeah, I'll pick that up later.
Okay.
Yeah,
just very quick. I mean, I actually think firstly, nobody gets paid. Okay, no one gets a direct salary. There's no salary. I mean, the monarchy gets a grant from the government, which is used to fund everything it does. Aside from the security, again, but I mean, security would exist if you had a president as well. And it doesn't add up actually that one head of state works out cheaper. Last year, the offices of Obama, Sarkozy, and the German president, whose name escapes me, and the Italian president all cost more than the 35 million that goes to the monarchy. So it just doesn't add up. That single head of state and their family
Well, it's not 35 million, that's really different. But we hear about this value for money myth as well, of course, that, and how the Queen is so frugal. She may be frugal with her own money, she's not so frugal with ours. We don't get to hear about this, usually, but, I mean, for example, the Queen, 23,000 for a trip to the Kentucky Derby. Charles, £30,000 for a private 4-day trip to Scotland. When questioned on these expenses, the palace responded that they were always on duty, so they're entitled to that money, which is a convenient little get out to make sure that we pay for every expenditure, private or public. The fact is, they're not frugal. I mean, it explains probably why the Queen doesn't carry any money around with her, to be honest, famously.